The political regime is the way political power is exercised and distributed. It is how a society is governed. When we speak about a political regime, we're referring to the principles by which officials are appointed, how power is transferred, the level of political competition in a given state, the extent to which the masses are involved in governance, how easy or difficult it is for ordinary people to enter the political elite, to become a minister, governor, mayor, president, and so on. This topic is highly important because it concerns every individual. In particular, it touches on such, at first glance, unexpected things as dignity and self-respect. Are we trembling creatures, or do we have the right? Political regimes are about that. The point is this: for most of history, power was concentrated in the hands of a single person, or a very narrow group of people who did literally whatever they wanted, knowing there would be no consequences. This refers to czars, emperors, khans, princes, aristocrats who once ruled absolutely or almost absolutely. At some point, the situation began to change. Increasing numbers of people started to participate in the political process. We call this democratization. Before this happened, the overwhelming majority, the people, were simply a voiceless, indistinct mass that decided nothing and influenced nothing. The meaning of existence for the majority was reduced to working, paying taxes and dying in wars, without asking questions or demanding anything in return. At one time, this was considered normal. The classification of political regimes has long been debated. There is no single agreed approach, but some framework must still be proposed. I align with those scholars who divide political regimes into democratic and non-democratic. Of course, there are those who argue that this approach is biased, because democracy is implicitly treated as an ideal toward which all should strive, while those who have not become democratic are consigned to the dismissive status of non-democratic. Arguing about this seems pointless. Any political regime has a set of features that make it what it is. What makes a democracy a democracy? The immediate answer is that, in a democracy, the only legitimate source of power is the people. However, it must be admitted that these words are rather abstract. Where are these people, and do they even know they are the source of power? All of this is somewhat vague, and one wants something more concrete. That something is the institution of elections. It is precisely this that makes a democracy a democracy. What do we choose? People who will govern us. Presidents, mayors, governors, political parties, municipal deputies, and so on. Elections are not a mere formality, not a meaningless ritual, but a fundamentally important mechanism that defines the entire system of relations between the elite and the masses. Power is not something sacred or divinely granted. Power is simply people whom we have chosen. They are there because we decided so. Both we and they understand this. For this to truly be the case, elections must be fair and competitive. Results must not be falsified. There must be multiple candidates. They must represent different programs and compete for voter support. Everything must be real, without backstage deals or spoiler candidates. In the modern world, democracy is often qualified as liberal. This means that the institution of elections is supplemented by the rule of law, separation of powers, inviolability of private property, freedom of speech, assembly and conscience, openness and tolerance. Liberal democracy is, if not an ideal, then the best political system we know. Under liberal democracy, power is accountable and fundamentally replaceable. People elect their representatives, and if those representatives fail to meet expectations, they lose elections and leave. The principle of separation of powers guards against despotism and usurpation, while the rule of law protects against arbitrariness by officials and security forces. Under liberal democracy, one can write, read, think, watch, and say whatever one wants without fearing for one's life, freedom, or property. One can also move in any direction, change countries, engage in business, or not work at all, without fearing criticism from the authorities or society. At the same time, liberal democracy has its drawbacks. 1. The quality of the electorate. Under liberal democracy, every person has the right to vote once they reach adulthood. One person equals one vote, regardless of gender, race, education, experience, position, wealth, or IQ. Thus, the vote of the most informed and competent person is equal, both formally and in practice, to the vote of the most backward and inadequate. The overwhelming majority does not possess strong intellectual abilities, is indifferent to almost everything, and is not inclined to delve into laws, amendments, and programs. The majority is highly suggestible and easy to manipulate, which is why those elected are often not those who can effectively govern and develop the country, but those who shout louder or appear more frequently. 2. The power of capital. Marxists would say that those who own rule, regardless of what is declared. Those who hold capital are capable of subordinating the state to themselves. Parties, ministers, and presidents will change. Everyone will have the impression that freedom prevails, because there are many candidates, they criticize each other, there are lively debates, and so on. But in reality, all of this is an illusion, because nothing fundamental changes. Holders of capital retain their status, and exploitation continues. In leftist thought, this is called the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie or the dictatorship of capital.